Okay, let's dive right into this invisible autopilot. I want you to take a real-time brain test with me right now. Seriously, don't prepare, don't overthink it. Just react as absolutely quickly as you can. You ready?
What's 2 plus 2? Bread and... what?
4.
Butter. You don't even have to try.
Did you?
The answers literally just magically appeared in your mind. You didn't consciously calculate the math or actively search your memory banks for breakfast foods. Your brain just instantly filled in the blanks on total autopilot without a single ounce of conscious effort. It felt incredibly easy and smooth. Now I want you to hold on to that exact feeling.
Because now, consider this equation. 17 times 24. Did you feel that shift? Your autopilot just hit a massive brick wall. Suddenly, the automatic answers completely stop coming. You might even feel your pupils dilate slightly, or maybe your heart rate ticks up just a fraction. You realize you have to do actual hard mental work to figure this out. You are no longer on autopilot. Basically, your brain just sent an emergency call for backup. And this brilliantly illustrates the core framework developed by Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman in his groundbreaking work, Thinking Fast and Slow. He divides the way we think into 2 distinct characters in our minds. First up, we've got System 1. This is the fast, emotional, completely automatic side of your brain that handles the whole bread and butter thing. It's kind of like a highly efficient, incredibly speedy, but sometimes pretty reckless driver. Then we have System 2. This is the slow, highly logical, computing side that steps in for complex problems, like 17 times 24. But here is the major catch that Kahneman discovered. System 2 is an incredibly lazy passenger. I mean, we all love to think of ourselves as these deeply rational, highly logical creatures, right? Firmly guided by our System 2. But Kahneman's research completely shatters that illusion. System 2 is supposed to be this rational supervisor, stepping in whenever System 1 makes a reckless assumption. However, because System 2 requires so much energy and focus to actually run, well, it's naturally lazy. It often just blindly endorses the emotional, instantaneous impulses of System 1 without even bothering to check the facts. Your logical brain is constantly failing to correct your automatic brain out of sheer mental exhaustion and laziness. So the crucial point here is that System 1 literally cannot feel doubt. Doubt requires logic, which means it requires System 2 to wake up and actually do the work. So to navigate a super complex world quickly, System 1 relies heavily on heuristics and biases. These are basically automatic mental shortcuts. And while these shortcuts might have helped our ancestors survive in the wild, today they lead to highly predictable, completely irrational errors in our daily judgment. Essentially, your brain's autopilot is constantly sabotaging your choices behind the scenes. Let's look at exactly how this happens out there in the real world. Sabotage 1. The anchoring effect. This is honestly one of the most fascinating ways our mental autopilot just completely ruins our decisions. When we have to estimate a number or a value that we don't know, System 1 instantly grabs onto literally any number that happens to be in our environment, even if it's completely random, and it uses it as an anchor. So imagine someone spins a random wheel, it lands on a high number, and then they immediately ask you to guess the price of a car or a house. Your estimate is automatically going to be much higher than it would have been otherwise. And your lazy System 2 is completely blind to the fact that it's being successfully manipulated by entirely random data. It just accepts that random anchor as the absolute truth. Moving on to Sabotage 2, the illusion of predictability. Let's see how this builds into an even bigger problem, revealing a very uncomfortable truth. We are dangerously overconfident in our understanding of the world. Kahneman refers to this as hindsight bias. When something major happens, say a sudden stock market crash or an unexpected medical emergency, it is very often the result of complex, random, completely chaotic events. But after the fact, well, our System 1 absolutely hates chaos, so it creates a neat, straightforward story. We look back and proudly declare, oh, we knew it all along. This illusion is incredibly dangerous because it makes us unfairly blame professionals. We end up blaming doctors, financial advisors, social workers, politicians for bad outcomes, completely ignoring the reality that they made the best possible decision at the time with unpredictable information. We just judge them because the final result is now known to us. And that brings us to Sabotage 3, the trap of loss aversion. So the crucial point to take away from this is that this trap dictates almost every single choice you make regarding your career, your relationships, and especially your money. It's built on our profoundly skewed relationship with risk.
You would think that, say, winning $100 and losing $100 would balance out emotionally, right? They absolutely do not. The psychological pain of losing is vastly stronger than the joy of winning. Because our System 1 autopilot is hardwired to avoid loss at practically all costs, we act completely irrationally. We will regularly choose a guaranteed low outcome over a statistically fantastic opportunity, simply because we are terrified of the tiny risk of losing. It's exactly why so many people settle for average rather than setting high-achieving goals. It's also why we stay in bad investments or toxic situations way too long. We would rather hold on to a losing battle than face the definitive sharp pain of actually admitting defeat.
Which brings us to the ultimate twist, your two different selves. We've seen how our autopilot messes up our day-to-day decisions, but Kahneman saves the biggest twist for last. The greatest sabotage isn't just about the choices you make in the present moment, it's about how your brain completely and utterly misrepresents your entire life to you. According to this research, you actually have two completely different selves operating inside your mind. First, there's the experiencing self. This self lives purely in the present moment, feeling joy, pain, anger, frustration, or love as it happens second by second. But then you have the remembering self. This self is the storyteller. It writes the history of your life and uses those memories to make literally all of your future decisions. The massive problem here? The remembering self has incredibly flawed short-term memory. It doesn't keep an accurate second-by-second record of what the experiencing self actually went through. Let's look at this timeline of a 10-year relationship to see just how terrifying this can actually be. So year 1 is joyful. Year 5 is happy. For almost an entire decade, the experiencing self has an amazing, wonderful, fulfilling time. But in year 10, the relationship ends terribly. Because of what Kahneman calls the peak end rule, the remembering self completely ignores those 9 years of pure happiness. It overwrites the entire decade-long experience based solely on that final negative ending. It will categorize the whole 10 years as a total disaster, completely erasing the reality of the joy you actually lived. And worst of all, it's going to use that deeply flawed, rewritten memory to dictate your future choices. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly unsettling question. If your memories are just flawed stories rewritten by an emotional autopilot, and your logical brain is too lazy to correct them, who is really making the choices in your life? Is it the self who actually lives it, or the self who falsely remembers it? Once you start noticing this invisible autopilot at work, I guarantee you will never, ever look at your own decisions the same way again.